Join the stars of the Ancient Aliens TV show, Eric Von Doniken, as he returns to Manchester after an amazing response to his last presentation. David Childress will guide you through the evidence left behind. Mike Barrow will take you to other worlds, where Nick Pope will present the real X-Files. Paula Harris will share incredible testimonies. It's time to believe and raise consciousness. Join like-minded souls on Saturday, June 23rd, 2018 for Awakening. What do you believe?
Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of The More Show. Now I'm currently filming my documentary They Call Us Channelers, and one of the participants for this documentary is spiritualist medium James Van Praagh. Now I got to meet James whilst on location filming at his house in San Diego. And I'm putting the full interview out here because I thought it's such great material. I need to share this with you guys. So enjoy my interview with James Van Praagh. Okay. Well, James Van Praagh, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me and to be a part of it.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on, and I'm really honored that you did as well. I did play back one of my previous interviews with you just this morning, just to have a quick listen to it, and I was like, wow, we covered a lot last time.
We always we cover a lot usually. You and I get into some flow, a rhythm, and it's very, we understand each other pretty well.
Yeah.
Speak the same language, so it makes it easy.
It seems like a lifetime ago when I interviewed you, yeah. Right? And I'm guessing so much has changed for yourself since then as well?
Sure. I'm very much involved with my school, my online school, the James Van Praagh School of Mystical Arts. That's been really the forefront of my life the past 2 years. So, yeah, it's been teaching, a lot of teaching work.
Absolutely. So this is going to be, so people watching this now on The More Show, this is also going to be for the documentary as well. So I just want to cover a few things here, just pretty basics as well, with your story. So, in your childhood then, was there any sort of, in the family as well, was there any sort of spiritual gifts or psychic gifts?
Yes, very, very much so. My mother's father was very psychic, an Irishman, and in those days they didn't call it psychic, it was just a natural intuition. And he used to say to his wife, you better put another place on the table because we're going to have another visitor around dinner time. And sure enough, 5 o'clock, the next door neighbor showed up and ate with them. So that would happen all the time with them, this natural sense of intuition. And on my father's side of the family, his mother used to read tea leaves. And she was from England, and she used to read tea leaves just for a family type of thing. It was very natural. And I remember as a child, she used to read my tea leaves. It just ran in the family that way. And my mother was also very, very psychic and mediumistic in her own right. In those days, of course, they didn't know what it was called, but she would often see her parents at the end of the bed. Spirits, her parents had passed, and she would talk to them. And she said, Mother and Father are here. And I remember growing up as a child, I would often see spirit, and I'd say to my mother, who are those beings at the end of the bed, those people with lights on them? And she would say, oh, those are God's angels. You see them too? I used to see them when I was a little girl. So it very much runs in a family. It's very much genetic in a family.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, so there was some recognized spiritual gifts in the family then.
Yes.
So what was growing up like for you then?
Well, I grew up in a very Catholic religious household. My mother was very Catholic, Irish Catholic, went to Mass every single morning. And my father was Protestant, I guess I should say, Presbyterian. And I went to Mass with my mother. So I was raised Catholic, went to a Catholic school. And I used to go to church, but I never really believed in it because I didn't understand it. To me, inside me, I thought there's something not right here. This doesn't feel right to me. I love the pomp and circumstance. I love the colors, the songs, the incense and all that. I didn't understand fully about what it meant, but I liked that. But inside me, it didn't feel like, I didn't know really what it was, to tell you the truth. So that's what was growing up. And I would see spirit all the time as a child. I'd see colors around people, which you know is the auric field. And very often I would see these colors, and then words would come out of their mouth, and the words would match kind of the colors. And when the words out of the mouth didn't match the colors around them, I knew the person was dishonest. Isn't that interesting? And I think most children are very psychic and very in tune to that. And that's how this is my own hypothesis, but I believe that children do see the colors around people, and the words or actions that come out are different than the colors they see, and that's immediately when they think, oh, there's dishonesty there.
Yeah.
So they begin to mistrust from a young age. My own hypothesis.
But did you see colors?
Yeah, I see colors all the time when I was a child. I remember also one of my first vivid experiences in second grade. I was at my desk, and a spirit boy, came through the window and came to my desk and spoke to me and showed me a diagram. And I thought, what is this? And he said, you'll understand this later on in your life, but remember this, here it is. And it was really a diagram of different triangles and just all together. And I didn't know what it was until 3 years ago. I wrote a book called Growing Up in Heaven. And at the last chapter, I was describing the soul. And that vision, that memory of that visual that that child gave me, the graphic, came right into my mind. And that was a picture of the soul, all the various different diagrams of diamonds all together. And that was the closest thing we know to, it was really sacred geometry.
Yes.
And all together, it was 144 separate little triangles together. Oh my gosh, that's what that diagram that little boy showed me when I was, 7 years old. And he said, you'll understand it later on in your life. And here it was. So I put that in my book, Growing Up in Heaven.
So what was sort of teen years like for you as well?
I was always, as a young child, I would say bullied a lot, so I describe it. And I didn't understand a lot of that. But I think it was because, now that I'm older looking back, I think that children can sense things. I think I was a very sensitive child. And I don't know if there are other children that didn't like that sensitivity. I went to a preparatory seminary to be a priest. And that's where some of the worst experiences of kind of bullying were from other kids. I don't know what it is, but I think they could, I don't know, on some level they could sense something or aware of something that I was more, I could see things or know things, and they didn't like that. I don't know, but I wasn't someone as a child that would go and say, oh, I see a dead person standing there. I knew things before they would happen, very, very psychic. It wasn't something I would say, oh, I can know this is going to happen. I just knew it. It was inside me. It was very natural. It wasn't something to talk about. It was just a natural thing.
And how, how were the parents reacting to that as well?
I never went about to my parents and told them, oh, I know that this person is doing this or this is going to happen. It wasn't really like that per se. It was more or less just a natural sense of things. Certain things didn't happen all the time. But it happened occasionally. I remember when we were grocery shopping, when I was a young boy, my mother had an experience. The fire truck went by the store, and she said, oh, I hope that's not our house. Sure enough, it was our house. She knew that. And a couple of times, I remember another time, I was in a delicatessen in New York City, and I was going out of the doorway as a little boy, and this man came and pushed the door open, and I saw all the colors around him, and they were very dark colors, grays and dark colors, and I didn't feel good. I thought, oh, he's not a nice person, and I ran out. He robbed that delicatessen.
Wow.
So things like that. I'd know when certain people were going to pass away. I knew when this lady, the neighbor that was pregnant, that she was going to lose her baby. I didn't say that to her or her family, but when the baby was lost, I knew that was going to happen. Things like that. But it wasn't anything outrageous for me, outstanding. It just was the way it was.
Absolutely. And were you thinking to yourself, right, what are these abilities that I seem to be having right now? I mean, did you read any other books that were sort of opening you at the time as well?
No, the only closest thing I could tell you about as a child, I thought everybody could see spirits. I thought everybody could see colors. I thought everybody had this knowingness, if you will. And it wasn't until my mother set me down and she said, you've got to be very careful with what you say to other people, because a lot of kids don't see things like you see them. A lot of people don't know things like you know. So you've got to be careful of what you say or who you say it to. So that was what she did. So I knew that, and I didn't think I was anything special, but because I thought everybody, children measure their world around them based upon their experiences. Right. So I thought every child could see these things or know these things. And that wasn't until she set me down that I realized, oh wow, I guess they don't see things like I see them. And my whole life I've been like that. It's been unique. But I've always had a strong sense of myself. I've had a strong sense of just me. And I don't consider it really special per se as intuition. I think we're all intuitive to one level or another. And the more we have the choice whether to use that and develop that part of ourselves or not. And I think if most people would learn to open up to that intuition, to their soul's language, is what I call it, that the choices in their life would be made a lot easier, and they'd know what's right for them.
Now back then, okay, so staying back then, or on the way back, in the sort of, let's go to early 20s, mid-20s, maybe even touching on to 30.
Sure.
What was happening then in your life? What career path had you gone into?
Sure. I wanted to be a situation comedy writer because I have a great sense of humor, as you can tell. And I thought I really wanted to go do that. So I went to university, and I have a degree in broadcasting from San Francisco State University. And I moved to Los Angeles because I was promised a job. It's a very Hollywood story. It's so typical. I was promised a job on Hill Street Blues, which is a very famous show.
Yes.
And I met the producer when I was working at a conference in my university, and he promised me a job as a production assistant in Los Angeles if I can get there by July. So I said, okay. I think it was July of 1982. And I was from New York, so I had to go back to New York, get some money together, got a used car. My mother had a stroke, and she wasn't able to speak. And my choice was, do I go follow my dream to be back in Los Angeles by July, or do I stay with my mother and help my ailing mother with a stroke? And I knew deep down she'd want me to follow my dream. So I had to say goodbye to her, not knowing what would happen. Drive cross country to the United States, which is a long drive from New York to California. I got to Hollywood, and I tried calling up the producer, and the studio said, oh, we don't hire people like that. He was mistaken. So I was really stuck in Hollywood, not knowing a soul, not knowing anybody, and really having no place to live. And that really was an amazing story. And there was a Hollywood sign above me, and I'm like, this is very weird. But I knew inside me I had to be there for some reason. I knew I had to be there. So whether it was to be the sitcom writer, whatever it was, I eventually got a situation where I was a roommate with some people, and I did temporary jobs. And I did temporary jobs in the entertainment field. So I was working in a talent agency or a literary agency. So I eventually ended up at the William Morris Agency. And the William Morris Agency is a talent agency. And I knew I had to be there for some reason. Within me, I knew there's something here I'm going to meet an agent or something for my sitcom writing. And it was there that I met a lady named Carol Shoemaker, who was she worked in their paralegal department with contracts. And she asked if I wanted to do some contract work as a paralegal, just helping her out. And I did that. And I really pulled staples out of contracts 8 hours a day, preparing them for a microfiche. So that's what I did every day from 9 to 5. But I knew I had to be there for a very important reason. It was one day she said to me, my supervisor Carol said, do you want to see a medium? And I said, what is a medium? Someone who talks to dead people. And I said, I don't really believe in that. I don't have any belief system about that per se. So, but I said, okay, I'll go, and I went to humor her. I went just to humor her. I said, all right, I'll go see this guy with you. So I went to see a man by the name of Brian Hurst, who lives in Manhattan Beach, California. And we walked into his apartment, and he looked at me and he said, you're a medium. And I said, what is a medium? I said, I thought it was a small. He goes, no, you're a medium. And he said, in 2 years' time, the spirit world are going to use you to help change the consciousness of the planet. And I thought this man was crazy. I thought, okay, I just moved to California from New York. I heard California is the land of fruit and nuts, and boy, here it is right here. But he went on to give me a message, or messages from spirit people, from my family, things I knew nothing about, but I found out later on were completely accurate. Names, details, things that have happened in my past, things that happened in the family. It was astounding. And what it did was it opened me up to a sense of there's got to be more to what we see. So I started reading as many books as I could on life after death, on psychic phenomena, on astral projection, all different types of consciousness, different levels of consciousness, awareness. And there was a bookstore in Los Angeles called the Bodhi Tree Bookstore. It was the predominant store of what we call New Age philosophy. And I was there every weekend and read, so I read over 200 books, I'd say, from all over the world about this. And it was through reading these books that there was this common theme, which was if you want to find out more about who you truly are, you should begin to meditate. You should go into self-reflection. So I started my own program of meditation, where I didn't know formally how to meditate, but I knew it involved the breath. And so I would concentrate on the breath, bringing in breath and visualizing whether a rose or the word love, and letting go with the exhalation of fear or any old energy. I just knew about that. And it was very interesting. Within several months of doing that, 20 minutes a day, About 2 months afterwards, I started seeing lights and colors around people like I did as a child. So I'd see the auric colors around people. And that time time went by, and I was then working at Paramount Studios as a paralegal in their syndication department. And it was one afternoon after lunch. My coworker went into her cubicle, and behind her I saw this lady, and it was a spirit lady. And it was really the very first time I had a very clear vision, very strong vision, of this deceased woman. She looked right at me, and telepathically she said, "I'm her grandmother. Tell her I'm okay. She used to come to my house in Idaho. Tell her I'm all right. I love her. I'm in heaven." And I asked my coworker, I thought it'd be kind of okay to talk to her because she was into astrology, so she'll be okay with this. So I asked, she said, "Oh, yes, my grandmama. We made a pact together that when she passed over, she'd come back and let me know she was okay." She lived in the state of Idaho in a yellow house with white shutters, and we did needlepoint. She taught me needlepoint, and we made a footstool cover together. And everything that was said, she understood. So I freaked out completely, and I ran out of Paramount Studios, never to go back in. I ran out, and I didn't know what to do with myself then because I considered myself, I'm freaky now. I'm a freak. I can see dead people. What am I going to do with this? And in those days, back in the early 80s, it really wasn't that known. So I didn't know who to call or what to do, what was going to happen with my life. I called up that medium, Brian Hurst, that I went to originally. And I said, "This is very strange, but I saw this dead lady standing next to my coworker. She understood everything that was said. What am I going to do?" And Brian reminded me, he said, "James, don't you remember the prediction that the spirit people made? That in 2 years' time you're going to be speaking to spirit and you're going to help change the consciousness of the planet." I said, "Yes, I do remember that." He said, "James, that was 2 years ago today." So it's exactly 2 years to the day. And my life has changed. That's been about 40 years now.
Wow.
And certainly the consciousness has shifted.
Well, you must have seen a great shift in this work.
Yes, very much so. And people often say, are we evolving? Are we changing? Compared to what I saw in the early 80s, yes, quite a bit. In my day, herbal tea was the weird thing. Oh, those people that drink herb tea, they're very strange people. It was so funny. And now yoga wasn't even thought about in those days. And now it's really amazing that the questioning of ourselves is really in the mainstream. People are really starting to question who they are.
Yes, yes, so much to get into. Thank you so much for that information there as well. So from that time, when you had that massive aha moment, that shift that we've all gone through when we enter into this work, right? Something big happens, we're either losing it all, right?
That's right.
And then it comes in, or something, as you've explained, that it just happens. Do you think you had a contract in your lifetime for that to come in at that moment, at that time?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. It happened during my Saturn return. And astrology, but the Saturn return, is everything in life is 7-year cycles of things.
Yes.
But every 28 years is called your Saturn return, where all the planets are in the exact same position they were when you were born. So you're forced into doing what you came back to do. So I know that I've prepared for this lifetime. In several lifetimes before, I've worked in very different religions and belief systems, disciplines, all different types, in order to, if you will, perfect my mediumship and my abilities in this lifetime.
So other past lives where you were dabbling in this, or you had done this before?
Without a doubt. Different aspects of it, I believe. Without a doubt, I was. Mm-hmm.
Got so much to talk about. Right, okay. Thank you, right.
Yeah.
So let's just move on that timeline a bit. So you had this amazing aha moment. When did you then think, well, okay, I can make this is now going to be my full-time work? When was that decided?
Well, after I talked to this Brian Hurst, the medium, about this work, he said, "I will help you." So I said, "Thank you." So really, he was my teacher. So he would tell me how to work as a medium, how to work with the energy. And we sat in what's called a development circle, where you sit every week, and you just really become aware of the nuances of the energy around you, of the space around you, of the spirit people coming into your space. And we sat every Tuesday night for 7 years, about an hour every Tuesday night for 7 years. And anyone who wants to be a medium, really, I would say development circles is the #1 way to become more sensitized to the space and really to get to know your soul, because it's really soul that the reason you're able to do is soul-to-soul connection, really. So I would say that really helped me the most. And I was doing part-time work at other entertainment places. I was writing different sitcoms, and I would sell a couple of different episodes of things. But I was also meditating all the time and working with this Brian Hurst. And it came a point where I was starting to do readings for people. And they were very, very accurate. They're very, very accurate messages.
So the readings, let's just get this right.
Yeah.
How long, many years have you spent developing?
I would say it was at least 1 year before I started doing readings with people. And the readings, we would practice that in the development circle. I would say, I feel like there's a lady here, her name is Marie, she dies at 73 years of age, and someone in the circle would understand that.
So these are spiritualist churches?
No, this is just in Brian's house.
It's just in Brian's house?
Just in his house.
Right.
No, not in spiritualist churches. I wanted nothing to do with religion. Isn't that funny? Because spiritualism is a belief, of course, of spiritual, but it's also Christian-based in some respects.
But then on your Wikipedia, it does say spiritual medium. And I know you've
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Yes. But to be spiritual means that everyone is spiritual, having that sense that we are spirit. Okay? A spiritual sense of spirit. Not necessarily Christian-based spirit.
Now that's an interesting point, because I find that there's a lot of mediums that aren't very spiritual, but they've got the mediumistic gift.
Oh, without a doubt. So if you think spiritual, being aware that you are a spirit, treating the person as you want to be treated, following the golden rule, to me that's spirituality. I will tell you this, and I have found that in this work, there are many great technicians, there are many great mediums, but just because someone is a medium doesn't mean that they're spiritual.
Right, that's the issue, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I've met this as well, where they can have this gift, it just opens up for them, but it's like they're in this lifetime again where they're still trying to learn what it is to be at oneness with people, about being nice to people, loving themselves.
That's right.
I mean, so...
The one thing that I found, which was really interesting, when I was in England for the first time, and I went to England and I did a demonstration, and I came out and I danced a little bit on the stage, and people were like, "What is he, crazy?" And I spoke a bit, and then I did a meditation. I spoke, and they thought this was very odd, this American doing this way, because they were used to, like in spiritual churches, a medium comes up, delivers messages, and that's it. There's no teaching involved. Now, from my background, I have to teach, because when someone comes to see me and have an experience, I want them to leave a different person. But not every medium is able to do that, you see.
Now that's a very important point, because, you know, if you're not going to look at what is the soul, what is this reality, what is this gift I've got, if you're just going to use it without really diving too deep into that, is that really helping people? I don't know.
Well, I can't speak for others, but I certainly can speak for myself, is that it's much more deeper than just communication. I know that I learn every single moment that I give a message to somebody, that I'm also learning as a soul. And I think that if you get to a point where you think you know it all, then you realize, wow, there's a lot more to know. The more that you know, the more you realize you don't know.
But did you go through that phase yourself, thinking that I've got this down to a T?
No, I've always been in the art of discovery, and that's kept me real. That art of, and I teach that too. It's the art of discovery, because every day changes. I mean, I wake up every single day with gratitude. What am I going to learn different today?
That's beautiful.
There's so many different aspects of life. I mean, just look at a leaf from a tree, all the different colors in a leaf. Come on. Well, it's like so much out there.
Just off air, before we started this, I was speaking to Jeff, someone that was here joining us, and I was saying to him, you know, he used the analogy of an onion, and as you keep peeling this work, more and more is present. As I've gone on this documentary, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So what do you know now compared to what you knew before? Is it almost like a grain of sand on a beach?
Yes, you know, and it's very interesting you use the analogy of a grain of sand on the beach, because many people have asked me, what if from the spiritual point of view, from the spirit point of view, from their world, from that dimension, how do they look at us humans, or the earth world? And the response was, well, the earth is like a grain of sand on the beach compared to the immense amount of worlds within worlds within worlds. This is just a small part of us. I often tell people also that when they look at the soul, perhaps, you could start looking at that 80% of your soul is outside of the physical body, and only 20% of us is inside the body. And I'm just using those numbers randomly, but that's like the percentage. It's a very small part of who we are is within the physical, but most of our soul is outside of the physical and other dimensions, exploring different things and having different experiences. And why couldn't an aspect of us live a different lifetime at this moment? Parallel lives, I believe in that. Quantum physics, I'm all about living in other spaces and places all at the same time that we're living here in the human. There's so much we don't know.
But was that thinking ever in your framework before, though?
No, never. I evolved, my thinking evolved as my work evolved. And I think that's what's so important, that one has to keep on developing and learning and being open to learn. Because once you close the mind down, you're not learning. the difference between a skeptic and a cynic. A cynic is someone who's critical thinking, but at least they're open-minded for the possibility of change. But a skeptic is someone whose mind is already made up, so they can't learn, see? It's a difference.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting what you've said there. The more I've done this documentary, the more I've met all these people. I've done this talk show now for a number of years, and it's not for the reason I thought I was doing it for.
No.
Right?
No.
And it's almost like what I thought I knew, I don't know. This whole documentary has twisted my understanding on its face of what this nature of reality is. And it's almost like, I said this to this, okay, it's almost like mental masturbation sometimes, right? Where the deeper you go, what are you doing it for? Why are you going so deep?
Well, I think, Kevin, that the thing that we do with the documentary and also the work you're doing on your show is you're opening up the possibilities for people. You're opening up that space, which is really important, that you open up a space for people to think, for people to open up and say, is this possible? Am I this way? Am I that way? I don't think there are any absolutes, except for the fact, I think that the absolute you will find, through all the ways you're going about it, through all the way we all go about it, is that there is a oneness, that there's a connection, that we are all connected as one being, one energy.
Now, isn't that that's one of the focal things that have come through in this documentary from all the channels? Oneness. We need to get to that.
I'm psychic. I know.
Right. Exactly. Right. No, but that's beautiful for you to bring that out in this moment. That's a great place to be. If this world came more from oneness, it would change overnight.
Yes. If people realize that we're all connected, that what we do to another person, we do to ourselves. And it really is the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. One of the things which, you asked me earlier, have I learned from this, and one of the most amazing, incredible awarenesses, I would say, I've taken from this work, is that when we pass out of the physical body, we have a life review. Every single one of us has a life review. And we become aware of how we treat another person, maybe a word we said, an action that we gave out, things that we did, and we feel it from the other person's point of view 10 times, 20 times, 30 times stronger than it originally was initiated. And we feel, oh wow, how could I have done that to that person? Why did I say that? And if we had that sense every day that what we give out into another person, things we say, things we do, will affect us later on, boy, and we'd have to take responsibility for our actions, thoughts, and words. Wouldn't that change the way we behave? Wouldn't that change the way we think about war, how we treat another person? Wouldn't it change everything? That we'd have a sense of responsibility. Boy, wouldn't that change? That's what the work, I believe my work is about now, is really to make people realize that you're responsible, your thoughts, words, and deeds. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And when you pass over, the first thing you will meet are all those people you wronged in the lifetime.
Yes. I thought it was so. I started this off as a channeling documentary, right?
That got you in the door. Anyway.
That got me in the door, right? Yeah. and I realized straight away, I can't leave out the mediumistic side. I can't leave that out because then I got into regression. Well, we'll touch upon that. Well, we can touch upon that now, actually. That it was taking me to the same places where the channeling took me. It's the same connection. Now, I know that you are good friends with Brian Weiss.
Yes.
That's interesting, that is. Now, wow, you guys must have done some work together.
Many years.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you had some regressions with Brian.
Yes, I have.
When you were regressed, do you feel that you was in the same space?
That I was in the same space.
As where you go when you connect as a medium?
It was a different space, really. It was a different space. That's a good question. Different space. Very interesting. Very interesting. Because really when when I'm working as a medium, I become very receptive to a space, let's say, above me, to the right side or left side. And I'm very much the observer, but also I'm the recipient of the information. I'm the communicator and the communicatee. And when I was regressed, it was very different because I was kind of the subject. And I was open to whatever happened. And the really interesting thing was this. Brian Weiss said to the audience, and I was sitting in the back of the audience, just ask a question to your higher self. And whatever question that is. And I thought, well, this is never going to work for me. I don't really necessarily believe in this, the whole thing. And I did ask a question. The question I sent out to the ethers was, why am I a medium? Why did I choose to come back to this time and period being well known as a popular person, millions of people know who I am. Why would I do this on television, put myself out there as a medium? And it was so interesting. Then I became aware of my higher self. And I was standing right there, and my eyes and my mustache were the same. Blue eyes, mustache. And I was there, and I saw myself in different wars. And the only thing that changed was the uniform. I was in the French-Indian War, and a Prussian War, a Russian War. And I was always a general in those wars, those lifetimes. Always the same position as a general. Always important to tell my men when to go in and kill people. So I came back in this lifetime to heal millions of people about death. So there is the balance, you see.
Right.
So I came back to balance that karma from many of those lifetimes where I was responsible for killing people. Now I'm responsible for healing people about
And
death.
has that ever made it into any of your books?
Oh yes, I've written about it in many of my
Yes.
books. Yes,
Right.
I had to. That was an aha moment. Talk about an aha moment. That was pretty incredible. And it's always, people talk about the higher self and what it is. When I've had experience of the higher self, I'm always aware of the blue eyes and the mustache.
Yes.
Isn't that funny?
That is.
And I've had many experiences and journeys, I would
I
say.
can see that in you.
Even with ayahuasca tea in Brazil.
Oh, you've done that as well?
I did the ceremony in Brazil, Santi Daime religion. I used to bring many people down to tours in Brazil, seeing John of God and different practitioners years ago. And I did the ayahuasca tea to see what it would be like, so my group could do it or couldn't do it, who would be okay with that. And I did that, and it was pretty amazing for me. I would never do it again. I did that one time. And when I did the tea, it was an 8-hour ceremony. And I remember that I saw my higher self. And it was my blue eyes, mustache, wearing a gold turban. And I knew it was my higher self. And this higher self said, "This is your initiation." And the higher self then handed me a ring. And it was a purple amethyst ring. And I looked and said, "This is your initiation." I said, "Thank you." About a week later, the group of people I was with on my tour, we went to buy some souvenirs. And they wanted to stop by a jewelry store. So we stopped by a jewelry store. I thought to myself, I'm going to ask this question. So I walked up to the storekeeper. I said, "Would you have a man's amethyst purple ring?" And the storekeeper said, "That's very interesting you asked me that. A man came here about 2 weeks ago, ordered this specific ring, and never came back to pick it up." They pulled out the second drawer, pulled out the ring, handed it to me. It was the exact ring in my vision, and it fit me perfectly.
Wow.
So I knew that was mine.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I just want to, because I feel we missed out a bit here, because we're kind of connecting all the dots here as well, or trying to. Okay, so let's go back to that point where you were giving readings. Sure. And you were building your career up. I guess you never did it from the standpoints of wanting to reach millions. Yeah,
No.
That was never the intention.
Never.
No. What was your initial drive then? Let's just cover that.
Okay. So my initial drive in doing mediumship, I worked with Brian Hurst in developing my abilities, and I was able to practice this connection of communication by receiving information, and the person would understand it. And then I decided to do that as a part-time. I'd work a regular job 9 to 5 during the day, and then do readings at night. And it was all word of mouth. It was just word of mouth. It's the only way people knew about me was word of mouth. So then it became so overwhelming, my schedule, so I did full-time, one more reading in the morning and one in the evening. And that was about, I had about a 2-year waiting list. And the reason I decided to do that, and gave up the sitcom writing, and the reason why I decided to go into mediumship, the reason why, was because that energy that I was able to bring through, that power, that healing power,
yes,
and give it to that person that walked into my flat, it was my apartment. They'd walk in depressed, darkness around them, upset, and they would leave as if floating on air. I'd give them their life back again. Yeah. And I thought there's no greater purpose, there's no other greater joy than to give someone back their life again. So I thought, this is why I have to do mediumship. So I quit my 9 to 5 job, not knowing how I'd get paid, how bills would be paid, no insurance. And what happened was I did that full time, and I had to have faith. And that was really a test of faith for me in my soul. It was a soul lesson. And I knew I was being tested, but I knew I had to fulfill this destiny, if you will.
But then you must have said to yourself at some point, I don't doubt myself anymore. This is my truth.
There came a point where I knew it within me, that inner voice was so strong that this is my work. I have to do this. I'm on this planet to do this work. And it was all done word of mouth. The word got out, word of mouth. TV shows called me up, producers called me up. And within a year, I was on major national television shows and writing a book which became a #1 New York Times bestseller.
You can't make it up, right?
You can't make it up.
No, but I think for some people, it's when they don't trust it and when they do doubt it, that's when you disempower that connection you've got. I mean, it will always remain with you, right? But if you're not going to say, right, this is my truth, I know you had to test it. You had to test it as well. But what about when you get information through that isn't always right? Now, I think there's so many ways to look at that, you know, when a person comes to you and they say, right, okay, when you give them a reading, you tell them what potentially could happen, they have the right and the free will to want to change their destiny the minute they walk away from your office.
Exactly right. So yes, exactly right. So the difference between a psychic reading and a mediumship reading, there's a difference there.
Good point. Yeah, here we go.
It's a really good for people to know that, because not every psychic is a medium, but every medium is a psychic. So a medium is somebody who's able to reach a higher vibration of energy and, simply put, can communicate with a higher dimension, okay, and able to bring through detailed information, names, memories, experiences that they experienced when they were alive. And they relay that to the living person. A psychic, everybody is psychic, everybody's intuitive. A psychic is a person, everybody, who's able to perceive energy in the past, present, or future. Not necessarily communicate with a spirit person, but able to perceive energy. So a psychic perceives, a medium receives. It's a difference. So not every psychic is medium, but a medium has to be very psychic, first of all. They have to have a very strong foundation of psychism, being able to be intuitive before they're able to do mediumship, for sure. So with me, I find that, and I train people about this, and this is really interesting, going back to your question, it's the earth mind that gets in the way. So when the earth mind gets in the way of, oh, I got to get a message through, it's got to be okay, I got to be good at this, I can't fail, that's the earth mind. That's not your spirit self, that's your earth physical self. And I always teach my students, go from the head to the heart. When you go from the head to the heart, you'll be right on, because the soul is tucked neatly behind the heart. And when we go with our soul self, which is that heart self, we'll always be right. But when you get into the rationalization, the critical mind of the brain, of the head, oh, you're going to put some energy in there, there's some space of criticism in there, that could be wrong.
And the thing is with validation, I find that, okay, you know, was Tommy buried with something in his pocket? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
The more that information comes through sometimes, the more they want validation of things, and the less that they still believe anyway, right? It still means nothing to them when they get the validation through sometimes, right?
Well, it depends. It depends on where they are in their journey. So there are some people that just need a little bit of validation to prove there is no death. For instance, I was recently in Maui, and a 3-year-old girl came through to her parents. And she said, Daddy, Mommy, they're in the back row. And sure enough, they stood up. And Daddy, I like the angel wings that you got me. Daddy, thank you so much. And the father literally took his T-shirt off, turned around, and his whole back were 2 angel wings that he got for his daughter for her birthday, which was that day, in memory of her. That was great validation for the parents, but also everybody else in that experience.
Okay.
That I say, wow, that's something there. Now, they can use that information to think, wow, there's life after death. How am I going to change my life accordingly?
But what about the people that, is there an evolution in the mediumistic work in the sense that it's, let's get away from validation sometimes? What about a soul reading? What does your soul want to tell you?
See, I think it's great. Well, there you go. Now you're getting into my space. The first part of my work was really proving life after death. That's really, and as a medium, the basic belief is one is to prove there's life after death. The conscious survives.
That was to yourself, even with meeting Brian Wise as well. You was on your own
that
journey as well.
That was basically my first part of my whole mediumship life. Now, 40 years later, it's getting, the consciousness has shifted so much in the mainstream that I think people get there is life after death. Let's move to the next level, which is soul to soul. What does my soul need to learn? And that goes back to responsibility. How do I need to be responsible? How do I need to look at myself as a soul having a human experience? How can I change the world in a better place? And not let somebody else do it for me. I have to do it for myself. And everybody's different, but they have to go on that journey. So hopefully the work is forcing them to go into that journey of self. Now, I would love to channel, and I know you've done a documentary about channelers. Be great. A lot easier for me to channel than mediumship, because mediumship is validation and details. Channel would be a lot easier because it wouldn't be the validation. Not that it's not worthy. I think channeling is a great thing, but it'd be a lot easier for me just to do that than to bring through detailed messages.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, with the channeling, I find that some channelers do have the mediumistic ability. They never knew
Correct.
they had it, right?
That's correct.
That is so true. And some, it's just, they are channeling an aspect of their future self, or, an
or a higher aspect of themselves.
Higher aspect of themselves, the higher self, whatever it may be, right? And that brings through teaching information. But then who's to say you can't channel?
I think everybody can channel. I think
But you are channeling now.
I'm channeling now. It's that source. It's that creative force. It's that stream of consciousness that we all use in different ways. So I like to look at it like almost like radio stations. What are you tuning into? So chefs use it. Bankers use it. Housekeepers use it. It's using the energy, but which way you're going to use that energy. So it's that creative force, that creative source energy.
Well, you see, that's the thing. I don't want to take anything away from mediums, because that's what I'm not here to do that, right? I'm saying it's all valid.
It's all valid. You bet it is. I'm just attuned to a different station, 106.7 or something, and we're all at different stations. We're all tuning in. I think what one should do is use as many of those stations, listen to as many stations as they can, and see what resonates as truth for themselves.
So
just because I say it's this way doesn't mean it's right for you.
Well,
and we all should look at that way.
well, that's that. Okay, then. So then, use that analogy. Then, when you've given someone a reading, is it kind of like, well, don't live by this, but this is what's come through for you in this moment.
Exactly. And I say it before I even do a demonstration to the audience members. I say, listen, if this resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, throw it out. I said, if it resonates as seeds of truth for you, that you're ready for this, or it's working for you, great. If not, you don't need to. I'm not forcing this down your throat.
But for you to get to that point, that's taken time for you to get to that point of, this is what I do, I'm in love with this is my purpose, and I don't care what anyone else thinks, and I believe in this is my truth.
It's a big step. It's a big step.
Because you're testing, aren't you?
Oh God, yes, all the time. Well, when I first came out of this as a medium, I was probably one of the most tested mediums around. It's for the Skeptic Society and everyone. It's like, wow. And they would say things about me which were like, what? That doesn't even apply to me. Like certain terms they would use. I'm like, what does that even mean? And so it's so funny, but that's why I say, I know who I am. I know who I am.
How did you get over that, though?
I think it comes in a sense of self. I think believing in yourself, knowing who you are, and I've always been very down to earth. I've always been pretty real. I always have been, even to this day. And many people come to me and say, you're just so real. That's just who I am, really. That's just who I am. I just think it's part of who I am. Do I think it's a great gift? No, I just think it's part of my soul development, who I am. I think everybody's mediumistic to a point, or everybody's psychic to a point. It's just this package is the way I bring it out, really.
Yes, and do you think there's an evolution to your work as well?
Oh, without a doubt. I think the planet's evolving. I think consciousness is shifting, and I do think that's happening. Even though this is funny because, well, it's an insight, another hypothesis of mine. People often complain these days about darkness, about fear, about political upheaval, about everything going negative in the world. And I was like, yes, but maybe there's more light in the world right now, because maybe we can see the darkness because there's more illumination. So maybe we can see it better because there's more light.
Well, let's look at that's a really interesting point you brought up there, and we're just kind of connecting the dots here. With what's going on in America right now and other parts of the world, there is a major change.
Major shift.
You talked about this in your books in the past, that there was big changes coming in the world, and this may just be the beginning of it, right? But aren't they masters to us? If these people weren't in power, how would we know the difference of what we don't want?
Exactly right. That's exactly right. How would we know the difference? Exactly. You don't know the good without the bad. So I think it's going to force people to, again, take responsibility. And not just take things for granted, but to take responsibility for their thoughts, for their choices that they make in life. Because their choices can affect many. And I think it's one of the main lessons that we're learning this time around, is that choices that we make affect many others. And it'll come back to get us, and it will. And it has.
Yes. What I mean, are you still doing some readings right now?
I do, yes. I do some, yes, I do some. I do a lot of benefits. I do a lot of teaching, of course. Yes, I'm getting more into philosophy type of
that's
lectures.
interesting. That's
Spiritual
interesting.
philosophy. I think that's needed. About personal responsibility.
More like a new type of religion.
I wouldn't
A
say
philosophy.
religion.
No, not religion, but
philosophy.
But
mindset.
Rather than it being a religion, it's a philosophy.
A philosophy, a mindset, a possibility. It really comes back to self-responsibility. I'd like to get more involved with that, helping people to be more aware, love themselves more. How can you love another person if you don't love yourself? So first, have a sense of yourself. What does that mean? I've had through my teachings of many, many years, it all comes down to people say, I'm a psychic, am I medium, are they a psychic, am I medium? Loving themselves. The more they love themselves, the easier it is for themselves to be open to that space of intuition, if you will, self-realization.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, are you working with guides, would you say, when you bring the information?
I work with many guides, actually, many different teams of guides. And very interesting is the different types of demonstrations that I do. I have different guides that work with me. There are several guides that stay with me throughout this lifetime. But depending upon the audiences I work with, I have different types of guides.
Do you recognize their energy when they come in sometimes?
Yes, very much so. That's how I work with my guides. I recognize their energy. And my last book I just wrote is all about that, about recognizing guides through the different energies that come through, which you'll be getting a book before you leave.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, yeah. To me, that just takes an awful. I mean, see, I'm saying it from this way. It takes an awful lot of trust to just know that voice that's coming in, as I close my eyes and say this, is the one that you're going to trust to bring in the information to the audience.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my block. That's why I can't. Maybe that's why I'm.
I think you got to. It's trial and error. I think you got to try it out.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to be wrong. You got to be willing to realize that, I'm misinterpreting this information. This doesn't sound right.
That's the hard part, isn't it?
How can I tune in better? How can I be much more receptive? How can I surrender more to hear them better, to feel them better? That's up to the medium to learn how to surrender correctly.
But then you've been working on this on past lives, though.
In many lifetimes, I'm
Yeah.
working at this, and in this lifetime, quite a bit. I mean, every day I walk around the day, being aware, being the subtle energies of the trees, of the flowers, of the sky, of the clouds. I'm aware. I open myself up to be mindful. It's really about being mindful, just being aware of the space around you. And when one really goes to that space of mindfulness, being aware, living in the present moment, being
Yes.
aware of this present moment,
Yes.
it opens up the spaces.
What makes you different, do you think, compared to other mediums in your field?
What makes me different than other mediums in my field? Each person is different. I think my sense of spirituality, my sense of compassion is very strong there. But I've met mediums who are that way as well. I've met mediums who are not that way. I'm just, I'm a pretty joyful type of person. I like to find joy. I have joy. I'm human as well, so I have my ups and downs. But I like that everybody experiences joy in some way.
Do you think some of those lives in the past where you was on those battlefields has kind of pushed you in this life just to get in front of those big audiences and not give two shits, really?
Yeah, funny. I think that my past lives as generals, yes, have definitely affected this life. And I was in Germany doing a workshop, and a lady, one of the students said to me, you were a general in a past life because the way you teach your students, you're like a general. I said, yeah, that's very, very true. And yes, so that's very interesting because I know that in World War II, I was very much involved in World War II. I don't know what side of the war I was on because I had several relatives, 50 relatives dying in Auschwitz.
Oh, God.
But I'm fascinated with World War II. Nazi Germany, I'm very much involved as far as this time of this life. I don't know. It's very, very odd because I can relate to it in so many levels. I even had a dream. This is really interesting. I had a dream several months ago.
Yeah.
And it was that twilight state. We were just about to wake up.
Yeah.
And I remember it was 1930s, and it was in Germany. And I was wearing a long overcoat and suit, and there was a man across the road, cobblestone street. And the man says, I said, I have to go now. And he said, okay, we'll see you again. He goes, hi, Hitler. And I went, hi. Oh, I can't say that anymore. So that was really interesting. And I woke up, I was like, wow, that was really strange.
Wow.
And I had this fascination with World War II, with that Nazi Germany. And part of it is how could humans treat each other that way? I think that's the part of how could that even possibly be?
Well, we're still doing it now, aren't we?
And we're still doing it now. We're still doing it
I
now.
Don't really like to compare.
How unevolved are we? You see, it's just, the spirit people say this is one of the most unevolved schools that exists because we still don't realize what love is about.
Yeah, but and it's almost like you know, there's so many souls that would love to have a human experience here, yet they don't get the chance to do it.
That's right. Exactly right.
Something that came up in the channeling, which was really interesting, was this guy had cancer, and when asked, why has Phil got cancer, the answer was so that the others can have the experience with him as well. And I was like, well, what
That's
others?
true.
And they're like, well, the group that's working with him, they will never have a human experience, and they get to experience cancer. So any experience you go through, whether it's depression or whatever, others are living it that won't have the human experience.
It's very, very true. It's very, very true. I've had that same exact response when people have the physical problems people have. They come back with cerebral palsy or whatever physical malady they might have. And when asked, they said, well, it's really for the group. It's for those to learn who are with that soul around them, to learn different experiences as far as the human experience.
With your connection with your guides, do you ever, I mean, you probably don't because you're just so busy doing other things, but with your books, do you have the possibility to speak to them about information that you would want to bring through?
I would, but anytime I try to do that, it's difficult. And it's difficult for me, and this is up to me personally, because my earth mind gets in the way. And so if someone's going to describe a guide or even a spirit in a seventh dimension, going to describe the color blue, from their perspective, it's very different than the color blue on the earth level. So things that they would explain there would be very different for me and the human concept to get it here. Basic things, love, fear, how treating each other responsibly, sure, that comes through. And they all talk about love. Love is everything. Love is in everything. Try to find love in everything. And it comes back to that. It might sound very simple, but it's very true.
Oh no, absolutely. It's the one thing that we daily are trying to do. How much how much did I love myself today? How much was I loving towards other people? Oh darn, not that well. Didn't do too good today, did we? But we trying, aren't we? That's the thing. And it's not the easiest place to come to here.
No, but that's where we go back to mindfulness. So the sense of being mindful, living in the moment. It's in that moment you can find everything. You can find love in the moment. So if we live in the past has already happened. Nothing we do to change the past. The future is yet to be. So why worry about that? So if we live right now in this moment, we can have the fullness of this moment and live in love in this full moment and appreciate things with love in this moment. It's, I always say that the truth is so simple, but humans are so complex, and they get caught up in the complexity of the simplicity, because it's so simple, but yet we humans make it more complex than it really needs to be.
We do make it the most difficult, do things the most difficult way. But would you say we're gods having a human experience?
I would say we're souls having a human experience. Souls, gods, whatever word. But yes, we are bigger than this human experience. The human, I feel like many times in the box, so limiting. And before we come back into this earth, the soul comes back into the body, it goes to what's called the valley of forgetfulness. And that's right before it enters into the body, the top of the head, the soft spot of the baby. And we kind of do that often here. It's because of grace from God that we don't remember past lives in a conscious way.
Or future lives.
Or future lives. Because we'd be so obsessed with getting it right or having to do this that we wouldn't live in this moment right now, in this human experience, and wouldn't make the best of this moment.
And to paradox that with the information that I've been getting through that, we can, change something in the past and it can ripple into change the future.
It's very interesting.
Because that gets out of present moment a bit, right?
Very interesting you say that. I've come to that observation recently as well, that what we do right now, this moment right now, can change the past and change the future.
You know what came through which was really crazy was the idea that, okay, you wake up in the morning, you think you've woken up in the same reality. But what if you shifted something, that you came more from love from something, or you shifted something in your reality, because we create a reality? Would you know of that which you left behind, if it was left behind, if you woke up in a parallel something?
Wouldn't it be great? Wow.
We'll never know, will we? But that's what's kind of come through to show, and I'm like, why is this coming through? This is way over the top, and they're like, because it's time to know that you're more than what you think you are.
That's right, and it's important to know that it's called the rippling effect. Your thoughts have a ripple with everybody else. It ripples, it ripples, it ripples. I remember I had a near-death experience, and I wrote about this in one of my books. And I remember coming out of the body, and I remember having the awareness that I was out of space and time in the linear way. There was no part of linear. And I was aware that my thoughts created this, like a ribbon. There's a ribbon. Everybody has a ribbon connected to what's called a tapestry.
Yes.
Yes. And based upon the quality of your thought, If it was a lovely thought, it was the beautiful colors, pastel colors, this ribbon would be and bleed into this tapestry, making it beautiful. If you had negative thoughts, it would be darker colors, and that would also bleed into that tapestry. And here we go at the end of life, the life review. You look back at the tapestry and you see what you created and how that influenced all the other people that you had the human experience with.
Oh God, yeah, and it's so deep, isn't it? Really, what this? Do you think when you cross over, and we want you here right now, right? Right, you're here.
Well, part of me is here, yeah.
Well, maybe I even got told by one person that we've already crossed over.
That's right.
You know, if you want to speak to your future self, you can access that and you can see, well, could you improve something in the present moment now? That's possible. You can do that, right?
Very true.
Right. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. Well, that's it really. Was would you be surprised that when what you think you know now, when the truth, some portion of a truth is made clear to you, that actually was even bigger?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. This is just a thumbprint of truth. This is just a small part of it. And again, I'm going to go back to this space of love, because love, even the word love, the energy of love, the emotion of love, we only know it from the human experience, but it's so much more.
Right. So this conversation, right, that's gone so much more right now than other conversations we've had. It only just comes down this conversation. When you see the expansiveness, all it does is go to present moment, because to see the expansiveness makes you realize, oh shit, there's so much more. Actually, let's just go back to love.
Go back to this moment of love, because we control. We can live in this moment right now.
Yes.
And by living in the right way in this moment, it can affect the past and the future.
I used to think it was escapism on the start of this journey to go so big, but actually, it's shown me it actually just goes back to now.
Simple truth. The human likes to make it complex. Don't make it complex. Make it simple. Simple is truth. Truth is simple.
There was a Razor's law about that, wasn't there, or something about that? The simpler the truth, the more likely it is to be true, or something. I'm personifying it. Yeah,
because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and that's a big one too. But again, I want to say the emphasis should be placed upon treating another person as you want to be treated, treating them with as much love as you possibly can. You might not understand other people. They might come to you with a lot of baggage, because everybody has baggage they come to you with. Even judgment, we judge another person. Judgment is fear-based. And the only reason we have judgment is because we want to feel in control, you see. And by judging another, we feel we're in control of them. Yeah. And it's really fear-based, because we don't have any control. We can't control others. We can't control their thoughts. The only thing we can control is how we respond to what's being thrown to us.
Do you think the new kids that are coming in now, right, that they bring in a different energy, and is that also a different energy for what the future mediums will be as well?
Oh, without a doubt, the children coming in now, the generations, the wave of souls that are entering now, very, very different than my generation, of course. First of all, the gadgets and technology is so different that I believe that their brains are going to be different. The makeup of the brains have to be, because of technology, and the interpersonal communication will be very, very different. And I'm sure mediumship will be affected very, very strongly. It already has been. I mean, now we do readings on Skype and the computer, and it's already, that's just a bit starting of it.
Do you think the readings could be different from mediums in the future? Like, it's more of like, well, hang on a minute, this isn't just Auntie Ethel coming in. This is your past life or future life aspect coming in here that's saying to you that actually this has affected you. You brought this in. Do you think that
without a doubt, I believe that the mediumship will change. The quality of the mediumship, the type of mediumship, even talking about soul DNA, planetary systems, star systems. Yeah, I think that's all going to start coming in to the higher levels of consciousness and awareness. Because basically, me and other mediums open the door to life after death, but then we go beyond that. And once the humans accept that, let's explore even further then, and then expansive even more. And I do think that's going to happen. I think it's part of the evolution.
So as you talked about, you mentioned this, right? But about the outer disclosure, maybe we ETs, whatever, right? Yeah. I believe all that disclosures and internal disclosure, I don't think it's external. I think I don't think we're ready to see ET, right? Can you imagine how much we would freak out, right, if something like that did show? We're not ready for it. I think we are internally disclosing not just our spiritual awakening, but also the awakening that there is not just us in this galaxy or this universe. There's more. There's multiverses and everything else. It's internal.
Yeah, I think within the next 2 or 3 years, we'll see much more about ETs and alien force, without a doubt. I know a few of my friends already come out publicly on a large level, large scale, talking about the other beings that are on this planet, around this planet, that are we're working with, we're allies with, oh yeah, it's going to become more and more credible.
So as you grow in your experience, because I mean, your work is, would you be surprised that where you are, and I'm going to ask you this again, that where you are in your work now, actually, maybe in 5 years' time, actually, it's changed again?
Oh, without a doubt. My work will change within a year. Sure,
Right.
because the energy is shifting.
Right. So in that case then, what you're bringing through now as a medium is going to evolve.
Without a doubt, it'll evolve.
And
You
you're
bet.
happy for it to evolve.
Oh, well, you always have to be happy to evolve because that's how we learn. We grow. Life is all about movement. Life is movement. When things remain stagnant, there's no life. That's true of everything. So in order to do this work, and any work, there's got to be movement, always. There's got to be evolution, expansion, and that's what it's
But
about.
that takes you to get out of the way, and doesn't it, and to allow that to come in, because sometimes it can be the person who's resistive to that change as well.
Yeah, as you know, as you can see all around you, I'm open to change. I'm open to expansion. I'm open to new things. You have to be. I mean, God comes in so many different varieties and versions, and I think one has to be open-minded in order to learn and grow. If you're not open-minded, it's not going to change. You're going to be stuck. And we don't want to be stuck. We're here to move. We're here to grow. We're here to learn.
Yeah. I just got that feeling with, I just feel like I just want to, there's just so much information to bring through from the spiritual side as well, that we've barely scratched the surface. But I bet I could speak to my grandfather through you and ask him a question, and that could be brought through that way.
At the level that your grandfather's at.
And
So
the level
this
that
is
I'm at.
interesting.
What if I can only ask the basic questions?
Right, so you can ask the basic questions, but many people think that spirits that have passed over have the complete knowledge of the universes. No, not necessarily. They're at a certain level of awareness too. And just because someone's passed over doesn't mean they have the secrets of the universe. And many times they're just exactly the same personality they were here on the earth.
So that would then say that the truth that they had at the moment they passed, they take that truth with them. No one's saying,
Correct.
oh, by the way, Alfred, there's the book. This is the full truth, and just have a quick read of that, you'll be okay, right?
We're always learning, always expanding. Even when we pass out of the human experience, on the other side of the spiritual life, we're still learning and expanding over there as well.
How real, it's almost like that some have said that in this space now, if you could shift your frequency like a radio, there will be other life that's in and occupying this space now in a different reality.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. There are spaces and places all around us that vibrate at different frequencies, different lives going on right now all around us. Just because we don't see it humanly, this doesn't mean it doesn't exist on another level. So I agree with that. I agree that there are all different lives going on all at the same time right now as we're sitting here in the different spaces and places around us. Remember, there are worlds within worlds within worlds within worlds.
Well, you know, what's come out in the documentary as well is that we make our reality. We create our reality. Seth said that as well.
That's
you
right,
create
Seth
your reality.
material.
Loads of famous people came across the Seth material.
Edgar Casey.
Edgar Casey material. There's another great one as well. You've been to the ARE
He's been
many
my
times.
guide. He's been a guide of mine many times.
Has he? That's so interesting. He came through for me when I had my aha moment. I swear to God, I've documented this on my channel. He came through and I thought I was losing the plot. I thought, oh my God, this is a Neil Donald Walsh moment. I've lost it, right? Yeah. That's interesting. He came through for you.
He came through with me.
Oh, yes, in a dream. He was...
I went down to the Edgar Casey Foundation to do a benefit for them. And I got there, and a short story. And Hugh Casey's grandson, I think it was, never even came to say thank you for coming all that way to benefit. And I was a little upset about that. That night I went to sleep. Had to get up very early for a flight back to California. And I was, again, the twilight state, and a man at the end of the bed, this tall man, he was carrying a coat, a doctor's coat, white jacket. And he said, I want to thank you. And I said, you're Edgar Casey. He had long arms. He said, yes, Dr. Van Praagh. I said, well, I'm not a doctor. He goes, yes, you have helped to heal many hearts. I want to give you this jacket. And I'm like, it's Edgar Casey. And he goes, yes. He goes, by the way, you have arthritis in your left leg. Please refer to a reading. And he gave me the numbers of it. And on the way to the airport, I asked the person who worked at the center, and they said, yes, that's his remedy for arthritis. I said, well, you told me. So they sent me the remedy, and it worked. And he's been through me many times, actually, when I've done healing work. He's come through me. I knew it was Edgar Casey energy. And yeah, very much so. Great.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Ay.
Goes by fast, doesn't it?
It does, right? Yeah, it really does. I can't say I don't know what I know right now. Do you know that?
But you're willing to open up and find out and explore, which is the most important for everybody. Even doing a documentary, even doing your own show, and me doing my stuff, we're opening people's minds up. possibilities. I think that's what it's about, opening up people's minds to think what's possible. I don't think we all have the answers, but again, it goes back to that oneness. I think as people discover themselves, they realize, wow, there's no difference between that person and me. You know, we're the same color of blood, the same sun hits us all. There's that oneness, which is really what it's about.
Absolutely. And would you say, I'm going to put these words in your mouth, you tell me if this is right or not, please. Would you say, you know, all material that comes from source is good, but your discernment would be more the human being that's bringing it through? Sorry.
I totally agree with that, without a doubt. The human puts the tone on it, puts the color on it. That's right, the human bias on it. It's pure until the human gets it. Then the human wants to control it or own it in some way and changes the color, the tone, what it's made of. Percentage-wise,
how much would you say that you're out of the way here when you bring through information?
When I'm working as a medium, oh my goodness. Boy, I'm a lot out of the way. I'd say I'm in the body of 10%, I don't know. I'm very aware of the body, but I'm very aware from this point of view of this space above me. So I'm really aware of them, and I'm aware of the body, and I'm aware of my audience or the person I'm working with. So I'm aware of all three of those levels, but I'm very aware of the space outside too.
Would you say they're more with you? They're more fully. They're kind of taking over a little bit more when they're coming through.
When I surrender.
Right.
When I surrender. So the important part is surrendering, getting out of that human mind and letting them take over, and I'm ready to receive. So I'm just the recipient, and I'm receiving that energy, and that's really the job of a medium, is to receive that energy and then give it out. And the more one can do that, the more successful the messages will be.
That's incredible. Yeah.
And now the light is gone, so we have to end.
Yeah, we have to end. Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. We are. I really. This is.
I know how this works.
Yeah. What can I say except thank you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad to share with you, and thank you for doing this work.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.